Hi guys. So I'm gonna need y'all to bear with me while I get used to like the new streaming software and how to edit. I'm working on it, I promise. I wanted to start with something that I was a little familiar with and knowledgeable with regarding reactions. So we're gonna use the Troubled podcast, which is done by another Family Foundation School survivor named Miranda. The episode that I'm gonna use is 8. It is titled "If the Tables Don't Turn, Flip It the Fuck Over," and it features Liz Lionelli. Mm, okay. Sorry. So real quick, Liz and I were at the school at the same time. She was actually my junior sponsor. She is the author of the ICU Survivor book, and she is literally one of the strongest women that I know. So let's get into it, shall we?
Survivor, an advocate in the industry on today. Her name is Liz Ionelli. She is a psychotherapist, a traumatologist, a licensed clinical social worker, mental health police instructor. She's been featured on The Doctors on CBS talking about this very subject. She's been in the New York Times, featured in the International Cultic Society Association. Please welcome Liz Ionelli to the podcast.
Here I am.
Yay!
It's me. It's only me.
Is. Thank you so much, Liz. Miranda.
No problem.
Who wants?
Yes. Yeah. No. I want to be part of this intro too.
Yes.
So Liz, not only obviously does she have like a plethora of badges to prove like how educated and how knowledgeable she is on this subject, and apparently all subjects pertaining to the psyche and how we interact individually and as groups. But Liz is also a survivor from the family school and a personal support system for Meredith and myself after coming out with the New York Times cover article.
So real quick, I want to say that Liz is an advocate for all of us. There is, if anybody is ever struggling, Liz is always available to help another survivor.
Liz she's that call if you can't drive straight. And so we are so grateful to have her on the podcast. This is probably the most important guest we've had so far. So thank you, Liz.
Wow. That was a good intro. I like that.
Good. Not too offensive to your humility. So
I'm uncomfortable. It gets weird, but it's me. It's just me. Like, forget everything they just said. It's just me.
It's just me.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on. And I think to get right to the punch, as usual for me, the Child Victims Act. Basically, the Child Victims Act allows survivors of child abuse who were unable to file a civil lawsuit under the old law, to have a 1-year look back period. So in January of 2019, the bill passed. 6 months later, August 14th was kind of opening day for being able to actually file your case. The Child Victims Act unfortunately, does not pertain to strictly physical or emotional or spiritual or mental abuse. The Child Victims Act is strictly for sexual abuse that was a result of negligence. So
before she continues, I do want to say that the CVA, that's an abbreviation for Child Victims Act, that was the crack in the door where we were able to start holding them accountable. It is a crucial part of the journey of our staff members being held accountable.
What does that mean for us, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll take the family for an example. I filed a case. I was the first in New York State to file under the Child Victims Act and the first to file from the family. On August 14th at 4:28 p.m., my case was entered into e-courts.
Also, really quick, I do want to say that there is a lot of this that I am under contract for. So I can't really discuss a lot of details unless I've already discussed them in open forum before.
And so what that means is that we have 1 year. So from August 14th, 2019 until August 14th of 2020, this is the only year of a look back that you have been granted to come forward and file a lawsuit against an institution or individual that sexually assaulted and abused you.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to say that when the CVA started, there has been over a dozen lawsuits with my program specifically, and it was extended because of COVID. It was only supposed to be a year, but because of COVID, it extended that window a little bit. But over a dozen cases, my program alone.
And so at the moment, there are 6 cases filed against the family school. And
also, I believe that this episode was filmed in March of 2020. So there have been more filed since.
Variety of different mixtures of who the defendants that are named. Some are personal. All of them name Education Plus Corporation. There's a lot of confusion because people and survivors say, oh, my program's closed, or that abuse was so long ago, or where's the money, or like, how does this work? How it works is that Education Plus is still incorporated. Therefore, they had insurance policies that were in place during the time of your stay. So the coverage that may be in place for me when I was there in the 90s may have been a different policy or sold or underwritten by a different company with different coverage when you were there at a different time. So it really is individualized based on what the research will show when they do a search of who the insurance carrier was at that time.
And Education Plus is this one of these consultants that recruits. They work with parents, and they're like,
nope. So picture the family school kind of like on the ground as a structure, and their quote business or place of business in New York State, because they were monetized, is named Education Plus Corporation.
Oh, wow.
So that's like the holding company for the family school.
I see.
So it's whatever insurance policies that Education Plus Corporation, to be able to operate as a business, whatever coverage they had for the type of quote business that they were running, that those are the policies that determine what your coverage is potentially.
Also, I want to mention that the family did change their names. Prior to when I got there in 96, they were known as the family school. When I got there, they extended it to the Family Foundation School, and it stayed the Family Foundation School until the Family School Truth Campaign was annihilating them with our stories, and they had to change their name to get away from the negative press. And when they changed their name, they changed it to Allenwood Academy, which is what it was when they shut their doors.
Is it an automatic check, please? Absolutely not. Unfortunately, you can't just walk in and collect your money. You do have to file. There's one of 2 ways it goes. It's 3. The case gets dismissed for some odd reason. You settle outside of court with a non-disclosure, or you take it to trial.
Which, really quickly, I do want to say they did settle a couple of them at a court, and they were forced to sign an NDA about the amount. During Paul's trial, they tried to push the witnesses on the witness stands to disclose the amounts that they got in their lawsuits. And it was crazy because the defense's strategy was to say that they did this for money, or how it was a large scale internet smear campaign, as if students that were there in different times, different decades even, could corroborate their stories like that. And in the defense mind, it all started with Liz Ionelli and one of these episodes.
Question before you go any further.
Yes.
I just want to make people understand, this is the Child Victims Act is only in the state of New York, correct?
Correct. Currently, there are other states that have better laws and age brackets for when you can file. It's interesting because it's been recognized that it's very difficult for survivors of child sexual abuse to come forward, even to terms with the trauma, until many, many, many years later. So realizing that other states have different rules that apply, but for New York State, they finally recognized that we may not have been fully aware to be able to or need to or want to come forward at the time. The old law was that you had 1 to 5 years from the time that you turned 18. So I would have had to have had my head on straight at 22, 23
Yeah.
to decide to go see a lawyer when I was still traumatized by what I had already been through, to try and pursue a case for a school that was still open. So I would have felt vulnerable, like that they could still come at me. And I think, for me, leading up to filing this case, for me personally, it was I had 6 months to struggle with what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So if you were in New York,
I also do want to say that I talk about that a lot, how victims of sexual abuse are not in the right state of mind in order to be able to put these pieces together. A lot of times it is completely normal for us to feel not right. We're not ready for a multitude of different reasons, but none of us were ready. A lot of us left at that age, right? Around 18. So none of us were ready to unpack all of that when we had just been locked in upstate New York for a year, 2 years. Liz, 993 days. And that's why she is called Survivor 993 on the internet.
You were at the Family, or another program in New York was Freedom Village, or any other programs that I may have missed. New York is not highly popularized with these types of programs like the family school. So demographically, Utah is like heavy-handed, and Montana versus New York, the ratio is different. So for New York, if you were a part or at any institution, okay, where you were sexually abused and assaulted, and I'll go down what that qualifies for in a minute, you have until August 14th to step forward.
Is it August or April?
August.
If you have...
Again, it was supposed to be August, but COVID did make them leave it open a bit.
Have not heard of the Child Victims Act. If you hear nothing, hear me now. It's a time-sensitive issue. And another option that I did not choose to invoke my right, but under the Child Victims Act, I could have invoked the Jane Doe Act, meaning I could have remained anonymous or used a pseudonym if I had wanted to, because we're treated as a child.
Right.
So in that regard, I chose to use my name, and it's not for I'll ask you, why do you think I use my name?
I think you used your name to show other people that there's no reason to be, well, I'm sure there are reasons, but they don't have to be afraid anymore.
Yeah, they don't have to hide in the shadows. We can come out and...
Right. Yeah, a lot of people think that I use my name as like a big FU, like, hey, it's me filing,
I do want to say that Liz 100% used her name to encourage other victims to come forward. After Paul Gear was arrested, I had several students disclose to me that they were also assaulted by him at the school. I directed them to the FBI, but because of the statute of limitations, that the statute of limitations, if there were no statute of limitations, instead of having 6 counts, he probably would have had hundreds. Okay, so that statute of limitations really did change a lot in this situation. Trafficking is why we were able to take these steps, but every single bit of it led back to the CBA.
It totally wasn't. It wasn't out of vengeance. It was simply, like, look, okay, I want to use my name, so maybe if people say like, oh, well, if Liz Ionelli can do it, maybe I can do it. And that's why. And it also,
people don't realize you're a survivor. I feel like you've been advocating for us. I think some people forget, like, oh, that's right, she's a survivor of the troubled teen industry too, like me.
Right.
I don't know. That's hard because you're Survivor 993 all over the internet.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Even my license plate says it. So I guess,
Also, even if she did use Survivor 993, people know that is Liz Ionelli. So it wouldn't have shielded her identity at all.
It's everywhere.
That would have been the FU to the family if you'd sued them as Survivor 993.
You know what? I thought about it, but then it's still identifying, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
They know who I am. I'm fine with that. So, so you can remain anonymous as well and be fully protected. So there are a lot of options. I think and I wondered to myself, like, let's face it. Sexual abuse at the family was rampant in all different ways. And so, in trying to understand what that means in going forward, it feels like you're like volunteering for a table topic or volunteering to be told that you're lying and manipulating and that you're going to subject yourself to the same types of behaviors from strangers that are going to try to attack your story, your credibility.
And they did. During the investigation, the defense were harassing victims. Their investigators were stalking the victims. While on the stand, the defense grilled the shit out of Liz, attempting to say that she was just the mastermind and the ringleader that planned all these students to come and lie in a large-scale smear campaign. That was their strategy.
And that's like a big fear, but it's not as realistic as people, I guess, give weight to that. At the family, we were the villains, okay? Like we were the ones that were in the hot seat, but in real life, if you were sexually abused, you're the victim. And that's where I think we get confused, and with being the victim, it's not like, oh, you play the victim so well, you carry your own body chalk with you.
So victims at the family, those that tried to report sexual assault or misconduct by staff, they were punished. And that's a big part of the issue, is that it's not that victims were not trying to disclose, because they were. But when they would disclose, they would be thrown on all these horrible sanctions. And so they were punished. So at some point, you get beat down so much that you figure, what's the point? You just learn to fall in line.
It's not like that. It's that you are acknowledging that something happened to you under forcible coercion, meaning we did not have a choice, based on that we were dependent on food and water and shelter and clothing and exile or no exile or very basic, the hierarchy of needs. Because we were fully dependent and in fear of physical retaliation or harm, we didn't have an option to say no. It's very similar to the laws about inmates. An inmate can voluntarily have sex with a correctional officer, but that correctional officer will still be charged with rape because the inmate is presumed to have no ability to give consent, because
the imbalance of power. That was talked about a lot in Paul's trial, because he used those tactics in order to get students to submit.
Because of the shift in power. It's the same principle that's applied to when there's an institution where the power structure was extremely imbalanced.
Correct.
So there's a lot of confusion. And here's another mind-blowing fact. If you went to the family, and I can speak for this program, if you went to the family and you were sexually assaulted by another student, you also can file a lawsuit for sexual assault, because the family was negligent in providing proper supervision. They were negligent in leaving us alone, isolated in dorms at night with no adult. I mean, like, I say that loosely, like as if they protected us, but that, there was no one there, who's watching the kids. Nobody. We did what we did on our own time, and so in that regard, you could have been abused by another student or a quote senior member
So when I was a student at the student, Liz was considered what we called a senior member. They had power. They did have power. I used to hear stories about her being wild and restrained. I did hear if you've read the lawsuit documents, I did hear the drinking of the bleach. But to me, I couldn't see her like that because she did appear to do the right thing, right? And that's another thing that people don't necessarily understand was that the cycle of students, it changed. New kids were coming in, kids were leaving, right? So it's a little difficult, and you can't really understand unless you've been there, if you catch my drift. It's really difficult for people to fathom that there are places like this still operating today. And Liz was like that. And this would happen also. Kids would do well for a while, and then they would backslide. And now, because we know, right, her story has been made publicly available, we know why, because she was dealing with trauma, and trauma on top of trauma is never going to wind up good. The answer to trauma is always going to be connection and love and understanding, compassion. Punishment is always going to make that trauma compounded.
It doesn't matter. But in my case, I was sexually assaulted by a staff member. But in other cases, there's some other stuff where they were assaulted by other students. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't look like what you think it looks like.
Correct.
What we wanted to know is, in order to be able to utilize this Child Victims Act up until August, did the situation have to take place in New York State?
Yes. So you had to, it's only applicable to sexual abuse that occurred in New York State, where the Child Victims Act is for if you are currently outside of the statute of limitations. That's how you get the 1-year look back to file your case. You do not have to live in New York State any longer. You could live in North Carolina, Texas, California, Alaska. You could live internationally, and you can still file a case within New York as long as the sexual abuse, in terms of it being negligent, occurred in New York State.
So I do want to say that the defense in the trial tried to use a clip from this podcast, saying that Liz was encouraging students to come forward and lie. That was their defense.
And just another point I wanted to make is that the media, and when this all came forward, really sensationalized 2 different areas of where they believed all of this sexual abuse occurred: the Boy Scouts and the Roman Catholic Church. You missed one. You forgot a big category, which is the troubled teen industry survivors or survivors of institutions. It's kind of like we exist, and we're right here, up front and center. We were on the cover of the New York Times. I mean, let's face it. So they forgot a massive category, and we, for ourselves, should make sure that we are equally represented, that we're not part of either of these massive entities. We're part of a different industry that's been very not represented or underrepresented,
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier you said that you would lay out what is going to constitute as sexual abuse with this period.
Right. So in terms of filing a civil suit, okay, and again, I am not a lawyer, and this list is not all inclusive, but I'm just trying to put it out there because sometimes as survivors of abuse as children, it was so normalized for us that we may not realize what happened to us was actually wrong, or we may have mixed feelings about it. Examples, just a few: definitely sodomy, rape, being forced to give or receive oral sex, being forced or asked to touch or be touched in a sexual manner. If you were taken out of state and sexually abused, that's something that you really, I would beg you to please, for reasons that I can't disclose, but I'll help you, bring to my immediate attention if you were abused, taken across state lines with the intent to be sexually abused and assaulted.
So that is what is called the nexus. We weren't able to have them criminally held accountable. Crossing state lines is why we were able to have him held accountable. It changed the statute of limitations, became a federal crime. You understand? So we have the CVA, and then there was the nexus, which opened the CVA is what opened the door for us to even get to the nexus. The nexus is what made it possible for us to get to the point that he is about to be sentenced, right? That was a huge piece of the puzzle, and we knew about that because Liz Ionelli was having conversations with the FBI, seeking just a loophole so that somebody could be held accountable for what they did to us. Liz Ionelli is a huge part of our community and why we've gone in the direction that we've gone.
Being groped, and I've gone over, could have been by a staff member or by a student. Those are the kind of things that are successful in civil litigation in terms of being able to fully explain, and defend the actions that you're taking.
Also, I think it's important to understand that this is Liz Ionelli's profession. She is a professional. She is a traumatologist. She has written manuals for people to deal with PTSD. She is not just an uneducated. She is great at what she does.
Okay, and so if this true to someone, if someone's hearing this and they're like, actually, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes, this was sexual abuse. Yes, it did happen in New York State. What are their next steps?
Their next step is to very, very carefully think about it, and kind of be stable enough to, really self-evaluate where they're.
Why would she be saying something like that if people were going to lie? She wanted to make sure that survivors that were coming forward were stable enough to deal with the unpacking of it, to deal with being interrogated, deposed, continued to be called a liar. Why would she do that?
And then they have to do their homework and find a legitimate law firm that is not advertising on Facebook or, Instagram, wherever. There are some law firms. I'm happy to share those names. If someone wants to reach out to me personally and confidentially, that's fine.
If you've gone through the court cases, then you see that there was one attorney that is on multiple of the cases. Also, there is the Jan deposition. One of the attorneys that were involved with the Jan deposition, was a student. She is a survivor. So she's been on both sides and has a front row seat to watch as their consequences are coming. Unfortunately, with Jan, he passed away maybe last June. So, but his deposition, it was pretty damning for any type of criminal or civil litigation regarding the abuse that went on at the school.
I do know of a few law firms that have handled cases against the troubled teen industry. So they're very versed in the manipulation and the tactics, the language, the punishments. Starting over ground zero with an attorney is difficult. So basically, you can get in touch with me. I don't work for any of these attorneys. I don't get any kickbacks. I mean, I'm not involved in that way. I'm just aware of who or what firms have had experience with the troubled teen industry. So I'm happy to help that way.
What I wanted to say too was like they can definitely get in touch with you if anyone wants to come forward. Also, I did want you, because we did speak a little bit about.
So real quick, I do want to say that this is who Liz is. She is a mental health professional. So I find it so strange that the defense couldn't acknowledge that she's a professional. This is what she does. She's just doing it for her community. She's being an advocate for us, using her knowledge to do so.
I guess debunking this whole thing, because there's some shit going on with your case. If you, I don't know if you can talk about that,
I could talk
or
a little bit about it
yeah.
in general terms. And let me, before I say any of it, the insurance companies, it's not the family school attorney that I'm up against. It is the insurance company's attorney that I'm up against.
I see.
So their job, these lawyers hired by insurance companies, their job is to not pay out too much money. Like their job is to kind of guard the gate. So of course they're going to come forward with very egregious and very outrageous standard defenses in these kinds of cases, hoping that one sticks. So they basically will throw the kitchen sink at the plaintiff, being me, hoping that one of their defenses kind of makes it through, which is difficult. So
I also want to say that I understand that that these types of attorneys are necessary. I just don't see a use for them. I think it's really twisted to interrogate a victim that absolutely went through the things that she went through, and is trying to reconcile that within herself, and these people, like the victim shaming of it really bothers me a lot.
one of them, and many of them are standard. So I don't want anyone to hear this and be like, "Oh my God, I'm not doing this." Like, it's not a table topic.
Mhm.
We'll get to that in the end. We're not under investigation. Okay. We're coming forward with what happened to us, which is our truth. And we have to remember that. One of the things they came with, it's called the doctrine of latches, meaning that too much time has passed. There's probably not any evidence left. Um, you know, um, I took my time, meaning I was like a slug. So why now? That was one of them. And that was a hard one, just that alone to take. But also it was implied that because I was 15 at the time, that it potentially could have been consensual, um, because I have a high IQ and because of all these other things. And a 15-year-old is not a 5-year-old, basically. So they were kind
Wow.
of, yeah, wow. But you know what? At first, I was really like very upset. I mean, I was crying and just felt so small when I read these things. But from talking, with different colleagues and in my circle, these are very standard responses. Okay.
Unfortunately, I do want to also say that when Liz Ionelli took the stand in Paul's trial, she handled it like the badass that she is, and I'm so grateful that we were there to see it.
Because that insurance company lawyer doesn't care about me at all.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't understand the family, doesn't understand the industry, doesn't know anything about us or what we went through. So for them, they're looking at it. Okay, my case, I was sodomized, and sexually assaulted and reported it, and nothing happened, and I was punished for it, and that's how I ended up in the blanket for 8 days, to silence me. So,
This was also really common. It's unfortunate, but there were students that did try to disclose their sexual assaults to whoever they were supposed to disclose to, and that was common. The blanket with duct tape. That was a practice that was used until the day that I walked out the door in 1997. Um, that was common for the victims to be punished for trying to disclose that they were being abused.
they don't know anything about that part. They are very tangential and very cold in their responses. So my advice to anyone is it's not personal. Like, it's not about you. It's about money.
Mm.
So, was I pissed off that they said I could have consented? Yeah. I went through. I had a moment. Okay, like I had a I see white light moment, and then it was sadness, and then it was, all right, well, back to business as usual. This is them, and this is me, and I'm telling the truth, and they don't know it yet. So that's kind of how I had to look at it.
Wow.
Boom.
Yeah, that's like a hard pill for me to swallow.
Mhm.
Because it's just, none of us were there by our consent. Even just being there. So,
Right. And we were all, we were what's considered a vulnerable population. Not only were we physically isolated, but we were mentally isolated, and we were kept within this invisible fence of fear.
Mhm.
So we have to really check ourselves and remind that we're not wearing shock collars anymore. We're adults now, and we know our truth, and they're going to have to answer.
Amen.
A lot of people also ask me, is anyone going to jail? This is a civil case, not a criminal case. The
mhm.
Child Victims Act deals with civil litigation, not criminal. So we are outside the statute of our limitations for criminal charges to be filed and for that prosecution. But for a civil litigation, we are well within our window until August 14th of 2020. And don't wait till the 13th to find your lawyer, okay? If you're going
So again, I just want to say again, this was filmed in March of 2020. Paul was arrested in April of 2024.
to do anything, you want to start the process now because it's not a quick phone call. There's a lot of steps involved in getting a case filed. Another question I'll answer: how much money does it cost? Okay, you listening? Everybody, listen. Okay. If you have a reputable lawyer and a good law firm, and again, I know some of them, you do not pay any money, and don't pay any money up front. There is none of that shit.
Also, it happens a lot, especially in personal injury type litigation. They most of them, if they're a good attorney and they know what they're doing, they do. They're on a contingency. You get paid. They get paid when you get paid.
It's based on contingency. Every lawyer takes a certain
Correct.
percentage. Usually it's 30%, usually based on the firm and the settlement of whatever money is awarded.
So yeah, 33. I paid my attorney when I sued NYPD was 33.3%. I'm also dealing with an attorney currently for another situation, and he is also 33.3%.
the lawyer will take their cut at the end
Correct.
of the case when they win.
Correct.
So it's called based on contingency. So a dirtbag lawyer will take advantage of you and say, oh, you owe me money. You don't. Hang up. Go find another one. So you don't need to be rich. You don't need to be living in New York State. You don't need to be a perfect model citizen to come forward.
I also want to say that they did that a lot as well in the trial, was try to bring up all these things, and we're still just troubled teenagers, right? We were there because our parents didn't know what to do with us, right? That kind of energy, which we've been hearing our entire lives. Like, don't you have anything new?
You need to want to find justice
Amen.
for the injustice against you.
Amen.
And you have to want closure and be prepared for a roller coaster ride to get there. If that's you, then you should call me.
Wow,
Okay,
great.
So, I mean, obviously, you have done a lot of work, and you're a little bit above average on like someone who's processed this. I mean, you're a psychologist by nature and actually by trade, right? But
Yeah.
all the things you don't have to be, the fact that you do have to have been sexually specifically abused, that seems really unfair to expect people from that sector of abuse to be the ones to stand up publicly in this situation.
Yeah, but you know what? If you look at the Boy Scouts, you look at the Roman Catholic Church, I mean, they're filing bankruptcy. I mean, so many people came forward, because it's far reaching than anyone really anticipated. In terms of the troubled teen industry, I think we're paralyzed by fear and not having enough information. about what it means. I mean, does it suck? Yeah. Do I wish that I could file, for the injuries physically that I incurred while I was there? Sure. The emotional, mental, spiritual, everything.
Mhm.
But no, it's fortunately unfortunate that I fall into that category where I had to be sodomized in order to be able to legally come forward during this year and this point in my life to seek restitution. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. I know. I'm like booming too. Okay. Have we covered what you want to make sure everyone's aware of on the Child Victims Act specifically?
Yeah, and they can get in touch with me through Facebook or whatever. If they have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm not, and if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah.
That is who you are. We believe that. Okay, so then we're going to move on and talk about something else that's really exciting that's coming up.
Liz is participating. No, well, she's participated in so many wonderful things. She's also participating in in an amazing documentary that is coming out called "The Kids Are Not All Right."
This is actually it's touring the film circuit right now, film festival type. If you Google "The Kids Are Not All Right" and Liz Ionelli's name, it'll come up. But this just goes to show you how long it takes to create that,
which is a great name.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
I love
it's true. Yeah,
it's just perfect. The whole title is perfect. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So many people, or probably most, don't realize that for the last about 4 years, I've been filming. The producer, Michaela Schroer, is out of Los Angeles. She is amazing. She won the Peabody Award, I believe it was last year, for Don't Tell Anyone. She did a documentary about being undocumented and the journey to becoming a citizen, telling the story of someone named Angie. So she is not only award-winning, but she's also the most incredible human being that I have ever met. So we'll get that out of the way.
Amazing.
So she really is. And she really took to my story, which collectively is our story in many ways, to tell it. So I was approached very early on, and it was just by a bunch of serendipitous events that we were connected within the week after John died. John Martin Crawford.
John Martin Crawford he will always be, he's a really soft subject for me because he was like a hero, right? And it was difficult for me to see or come to terms with the fact that somebody that was like the front man for the Family School Truth Campaign, testifying in Congress, let me speak for myself, I would have never seen that coming, because so many of us were not ready to be public about what happened to us, and he did it all, and it really, like, that so many students have died, but that one really it changed me.
Who committed suicide in August 24th of 2015. She was looking to speak with John, but he had just passed away, and a common colleague that we ended up having said, I can't get you to John, but I can get you to his best friend. And that's how we connected. I was very leery at first, I think. I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into, but I felt so lost at that time, and it really saved my life by giving me an opportunity to find a reason to stay, that my story mattered and that I was going to tell it. And so that's how our relationship began. And so throughout the years, she's been filming me in a variety of different aspects, but the film is not just about me, and that's the important part. The film takes an investigative approach to the troubled teen industry, which we know is a $2 billion industry a year. And so it's a very broad stroke across the industry itself. And then there are some survivor stories in different capacities kind of woven through it. And then my experience coming forward after John had died has been documented from the beginning. And she's followed me throughout my process and all the very highs and very lows that I've experienced. You know,
They also filmed at when he was convicted. The cameras were there.
if you had told me 25 years ago, like, hang on, Liz, someday this pain is going to be useful, I would have laughed and lost that $1 million bet. And it's helped me in many, many ways kind of come to terms with what happened to me and about the industry and about the importance of our collective voice. And so it's been a very healing journey for me as well. And it's an interesting process when someone starts filming your life. It's not, you know, it's a documentary. And so it's like, it's not Hollywood. It's not like lights, camera, action, go. It's you know, on the fly. It's not scripted in any way. You know, it's kind of just capturing my daily life or the things that I'm doing to advocate for survivors and the things that I've gone through, painful and not so painful. So I'm a part of that, and I'm just one slice of the bigger pizza in terms of the big picture. So I'm excited. I don't have a definitive date for when it will be released. But as soon as I do, I'm sure everyone will know within like 10 seconds of me finding out. But it's going to be, you know, one of the first comprehensive documentaries of its kind, focusing on the troubled teen industry as a whole. So I'm very, very proud to be part of that, and very hopeful that it will inspire others to find their own way to heal, or find their own way to come to, or find closure, you know. And so I'm really, really, the name is The Kids Are Not All Right. And that's exactly,
It's the truth.
like, it's really holds up to be true that we're not okay.
First of all, is she like an indie producer? She's producing this on her own, or is she backed by a studio?
I don't want to answer incorrectly, but I will just say she is like the baddest boss out there. So she runs her own show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Michaela from other survivors. I assume that she must have interviewed the Freedom Village kids, because they were
that was
telling
my
me,
next question.
how ethical she was. And so I have a question about that too, is because the three of us have had multiple conversations about documenting oral history and storytelling, especially when it's someone's truth. It sounds like everyone in our community is thrilled that Michaela is heading this ship, and we're very, very excited about that. But there's been lots of projects, and like, is there something like a standard of ethics for telling these kind of stories, depending on the motivation?
I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I can give you like my answer. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not like from that industry, but I believe
That's another thing too, as far as exploitation. We wanted to be careful. Well, I wanted to be careful with the person that is gonna be trusted to tell our stories. I didn't want it to be done in an exploitive way.
that from my experience, if someone is going to tell your story, it should be done compassionately and ethically, and not be exploiting you in any way. You know, there's different genres too, you know, of different platforms. Is it going to be a Netflix? Is it going to be a documentary? Is it going to be a box office film? You know, like, there's all different levels of, you know, a TV docuseries. I mean, there's all these different forms and formats. But I would really encourage any survivor taking part in these programs to One, have support in place before you start telling your story to strangers. Two, make sure that who you're talking to, get to know them a little bit. Don't be so enamored or starstruck, or figure out where they're coming from as well. There are many, many, many amazing, ethical, award-winning journalists, and producers and filmmakers and editors out there. You just have to make sure that you're going to run with the right pack of wolves.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. In other words, you get 8.
The industry will eat you alive, and depending on the spin or the story, there's my recommendation is always, I have one, an entertainment lawyer. Like, you have to have someone in your corner that's looking over things for you. I have a manager, simply not because I'm cool, just because I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know this industry,
Yeah.
so I have someone that manages it for me, just to make sure that they know my criteria. So that's how they handle my engagements and things like that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be smart about it, and not fall prey to the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, totally. Is there a like, I'm assuming over these past 4 years, it's not just you that's a survivor. I'm sure she's got a lot of survivors that have told their stories from different programs, from different states, from different all different kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah, like I said, it covers the industry across the board, so it's a very comprehensive look at the industry as a whole.
Are you done filming with that now? Like, there's no more.
Okay, so here's the funny part. I don't know, because I keep doing epic shit, and then you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
it just seems like, okay, like, to me, like, I'm speaking like just for me, like, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's it. Okay, that's cool. Like, that was great. That's a wrap. And then something else comes up, and then I'm involved in something else. And so, it all depends, and my story has shifted. When I started filming, I had no recourse. And I wasn't very forthcoming about what happened to me, to anyone, until the Child Victims Act finally passed and opened. I had not ever disclosed the truth, other than to the staff of the family that I reported it to. I always downplayed what happened to me out of embarrassment and shame. And also, an interesting fun fact about me, and this is going to sound really douchey, but I don't mean it to be at all. When you're on the cover of the New York Times, it's kind of hard to turn around and say, hey, everybody, they got me though. Like, like, they got to me. Like, I was sodomized and really abused, and I didn't tell, like, I told, but I didn't tell the right people, or it didn't work out the way I wanted. And they got one over on me. It's kind of hard. I felt like I was admitting weakness if I came forward, kind of like when John Martin Crawford committed suicide. It was like, oh my God, like, our fearless leader, the face of this campaign, just took his own life a year after the school closed. Like, it was kind of like, how do I possibly break the sad news that not only did I survive and step into the light and everyone saw me in their own way, but then to have to cop to, like, but I was sexually assaulted and I've been quiet for 20 something years about it.
That infuriates me. I just for me, speaking for myself, when I heard that Liz had filed her case, I didn't think that at all. I think it was more like a damn, right? Like, because there are certain people in a survivor community that are very, I don't know, they're just like there's levels to this shit, right? Like, some people are just held in a higher regard, I guess, because of the work that they do within that community. But for me, it was more like that makes sense. It makes sense. It made sense to me that's why Liz does what she does. that's why she goes to the lengths that other people are kind of shying away from, if that makes sense. And trauma survivors are not weak. We were children, and they were supposed to protect us, and they did the opposite of that.
Dancing around it a little bit, implying it, but never fully coming out with it. I didn't want people to see me as weak or vulnerable because, again, I'm still human. I still have my own shit that I have to deal with.
Amen.
And so, you know, I didn't want to let anybody down. Like, I wanted to let them have hope, you know, like Liz can do, if she can get through this, anybody can. And I didn't want to really like disappoint anyone, but
I don't think that it was disappointment. I don't think that by disclosing or filing a lawsuit or testifying in court that was a negative impact on Liz's reputation at all. Quite the opposite, actually, in my opinion, anyway.
I know it sounds twisted and you would think like, oh my God, Liz is a mental health professional. Like, how could she think so backwards? But again, I'm still human.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope that makes sense, like what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
You know?
I think it does.
Yeah, we're humans too, so we get it.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of your epic shit, with all humility, and mutual admiration. So when we went to do our first episode, we got this crazy fucking announcement on Facebook from our old friends, the Family Foundation School Truth Campaign. Firstly, who are they? And secondly, telling us that they're ending their campaign, which we want to know what the fuck is up with that as well. Continue.
I think what's happening, you know, is that we've taken inventory of kind of where we're at. Okay, so the Family School Truth Campaign, essentially we're closed because the school's closed, the testimonials are there, like we did our job, and our strategies, you know, the victories and mistakes and all the craziness that went along with it, and the hard work and all the hours logged working on it by a lot of people who helped along the way. You know, when you look at the name, the Family School Truth Campaign, well, the truth is out. Like we know the truth. We've posted
Amen.
the truth. We've written the truth,
Amen.
Spoken the truth, gone public with the truth. No one can deny that anyone left there unchanged at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the Family School Truth Campaign was launched as a we were combating their propaganda, right? A private boarding school for troubled teens, with our stories. We were putting the truth out about the program, and the timing of it, right? As the internet came up, that campaign grew. Google, people, what's the first thing you do? You put a name into Google to search. When they would, prospective parents, I'm referring to, when they would put the family school in, or Family Foundation School into Google, the Family School Truth was coming up. They were learning our stories, and what did that do? That had declined enrollment rates, and ultimately the family did have to shut their doors. So I do understand why the Family School Truth Campaign, to me, in my opinion, there were other programs open that could have used that energy so that we could have continued to do good and get other programs taken down.
Some more than others. And so I think that it's not so much an ending of the campaign, you know, we're just shifting towards a new,
Amen.
You know, and again, there's not going to be a Facebook page up tomorrow, and it's like not like we're going over here now. Mm-hmm. It's really more of like a mental transition, from it being, you know, instead of the truth campaign, what are we exposing? We did that already. Now it's really, we're turning the table campaign. Like we're changing the table topic campaign. And we're, you know, they say like, you know, if you can't turn the table, flip it the fuck over. And that's kind of what we're doing.
That quote, I love that quote. And to me, I know that this is going to sound crazy, but I'm great. I'm so glad that we're finally 25 years later at a point that the staff is experiencing the things that we experienced at the school. It's they're the ones that are standing up at the table now.
And I hope I can say that.
Yes.
Okay,
God,
so
Yes, queen.
the puns are killing me.
they're
I
they're
love it.
killer, right?
yes.
It's like,
So if you don't understand what they're talking about with the pun, we used to have table topics. There is a lot more about this topic specifically in the playlist on my channel titled Breaking Code Silence. Um, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I signed an NDA, so I can't necessarily disclose too many new details uh, while I'm under that contract. But there are things that I could discuss that have been previously mentioned in a public setting before.
open season.
Loving it.
So, it's we're really, turning the table campaign
Amen.
is really what it is now, because we have to remember, if we're going to come forward, not only advocating for others, ourselves. I mean, our program is closed. There's a kid somewhere right now wondering, is anybody thinking or worried or coming for me? And we're here. They just don't know it yet.
Amen. So to me, there's something's got to give. It's incredibly frustrating for people like me that know what goes on in these programs, and what she just said regarding is the kids wondering if somebody's going to come and get me. There were many nights that I went to sleep in that program thinking, when is my mom gonna understand what's going on here, right? You feel very alone, always thinking, hoping, and wishing that something would change, right?
We have to really look at, we already found out the truth and it's out there. Done, deal, sealed.
Exactly.
Now
Yeah,
what do we do about it?
It no longer needs to be we are survivors and we're telling the truth. I feel like over the last 10 years it has really become now here's all our
It is our truth.
It is
It
our
is
truth.
our truth.
And we're now going to continue exposing it, and because there are still programs that exist to this very day.
For years, decades, really, we were silenced, called liars in an attempt to save the reputations of them, right? Their reputation in their town. And for a really long time, it was silenced. If you aren't aware, the family that owns my boarding school also owns the newspaper in Hancock, New York. So when these stories were being written in the New York Times and other publications, they were being shunned in the town of Hancock, New York. It wasn't until Paul's arrest that it was published there, and it was a very small article and wasn't very favorable. The people that owns my boarding school are pillars of that community. They were complicit in child abuse, and now that's proven. It has been proven that they knew that we were being abused at that school, that they abused children for profit. And that was always something that was really skewed in their town because they controlled the narrative. We were liars. We were bad kids and hardened criminals, and we're just mad that we were sent there. It's stuff we've been listening to for 25 years, but now there's merit there. The civil litigation, they were able to deny, oh, they lied. You can't deny this. He is guilty, and y'all knew about it. You knew. There was no way that you could work there and not see what was going on around you. It is impossible. Table topics in themselves were highly sexual in nature, verbally abusive, demeaning. There's no way that a staff member wouldn't have noticed the abuse going on around them.
Right. And we have
people
to
are dying to this very day. We just had another survivor die. So it's like now it's shifted to we're turning the tables on you and the microscope is on you.
Amen.
And we're not going to let you continue this.
For those coming forward or who have already or who will, we've changed positions. We're no longer standing at the end of a horseshoe of
Amen.
tables, where we're the ones sitting at the head table, and our abusers and those who are negligent and contributory to that demise are now standing where we once stood with their hands behind their back, facing us.
And you know what's crazy to me is that taking personal inventory was such a big thing at that school, and it's truly strange to watch the staff members not take their inventory. All of these things that they tried to drill into our head: honesty, purity, unselfishness, love. Those are things that we have. Those are qualities that we have. But none of y'all were the adults that were charged to protect, being paid to protect and care for children. For the large portion of staff, all I've seen you do is lie, deflect, and project. Never take accountability for the pain that you've caused, the damage to families that you've caused, the lives that have been lost, the ripple effect of the Family Foundation School is insane. The amount of people that have been caused pain from one decision, sending their children or child to that school, it's immeasurable. There's no way the amount of lives that have been affected so that the Argyros family could make money is sickening.
And so that's really, I think the dynamic is changed now. And it's not so much that we have to prove that we're telling the truth. The preponderance of evidence is left for them. They have to prove that we're not. And that's going to be very difficult because the Family Foundation, the Truth Campaign set precedent for what it looks like to post testimonies and to come forward and to take action and to mail pamphlets and letters and campaigns and all these things. And, we kind of set a template of how it can be done.
Amen.
And we did it. So, that doesn't mean we haven't suffered loss and tragedy throughout it. But, we have to stop being so focused on outing the truth as it is, where are we going to out our truth? And if you were sexually assaulted or sexually abused, and you want to come forward with it, get on that, because you're once that door closes, it's like you're going to leave the family all over again. You're going to leave and never, ever, ever be able to come back and speak your truth once that date closes at midnight on August 14th of 2020. I'll say it again. August 14th of 2020 is the last day it could be filed. So you need to get on the ball, and if you're going to go forward with this, consult with an attorney and find out where you stand. And there's some steps that have to be taken, and then you start moving forward. And it's not a quick turnaround either. And especially now with this coronavirus and all this stuff, the courts are closed here in New York. Courts have been suspended. So we're kind of in a freeze right now. And the courts are inundated with bail reform and everything else. So there's even going to be more of a delay in getting things done. So use this time that you have to make a decision if you'd like to come forward or not.
Let everybody know that you're coming back again, and you're doing an AMA both from a survivor and a professional standpoint.
And a person too. I want like fun questions, like, do you like cats? And I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Include that. Include the wide spectrum of your ridiculousness of what you will accept.
Anything. Yeah, for the next episode, and again, I want people to have an opportunity to get to know me more than a name on Facebook or just a picture. I'm human. And so in doing so, I feel like it's my obligation to be vulnerable and be open. So if people have questions about me, my life, I am semi-private about my personal life and my family, obviously for security and other reasons. But But if there's something you want to know, like how do I relax, or how do I sleep, or what time do I get up, or how do I manage my anxiety, or do I have a therapist, or whatever you want to ask me, that's okay. Like there's no limits. And if I'm uncomfortable answering the question, then I'm just not going to answer it. I mean, that's just, but you can ask like legit questions about the Child Victims Act, or you could also DM me too. And I'll compile all those questions and then I'll answer them whenever the next episode airs. So, if there's something you want to send me or a question you want an answer to, send it to me, and then I'll go through them and I'll answer them on the next episode.
Yeah, and if you want an audio file, send it in. You can always leave us the voice message on our Anchored. It's Anchor.fm/message singular, and you can record super long audio files. So if you want to send her like a 20-minute, we probs won't air that whole thing.
So
but
probably
Liz
what
can
she
have it.
means is that it will be posted where you
Oh, damn it.
can ask these questions of me. If you want to go to that link, it's going to be up in the description for this post.
Yeah.
There you go.
It'll be audio, so you can record the audio or you can send in some written to Liz. But,
Yeah.
If you want her to hear your beautiful voice and you want that aired on the podcast, there's that.
Yeah, we'll do like a special 2-hour event, like a premiere party. Like, what?
We can do it live on Facebook or something so that everybody can come on in, since everyone's at home forever.
Here's a bonus idea. I'll go live on Facebook.
So a name you may have heard a lot in this podcast, and hopefully at least we tried in every single episode of our podcast up until now, is John Martin Crawford. And we're not going to really explain who he is to Liz because we think she did a good job, and please look up everything that she's been doing to represent him and carry the torch forth since his unfortunate and early dismissal from the Dimension 3, and we do hold him responsible for closing the family school, and in part because he went to Congress not only with our testimonies but with his own. And so we really enjoy hearing testimony direct from people, and because John Martin Crawford is such an important part of our experience and obviously very intimately significant to Liz, we do want to let him speak for himself. So please continue to listen. This is John Martin Crawford's testament to Congress. You can watch the entire 2 hours, both from 2007 and 2008. And George Miller is going to introduce him. And this is what he has to say.
John Martin Crawford is a former program participant at the Family Foundation School, where he spent almost 2 years as a teenager. John is currently working towards a double master's in English and secondary education, and is also working with the Community Alliance for Ethical Treatment of Youth, hoping to shed light on the troubled teen.
So that is abbreviated CAFETY, CAFETY. And I'm gonna allow this and react to also John Martin Crawford and this Congress testimony.
Industry.
First, I would like to thank the chairman and the committee for the opportunity to present my side of this story. After watching the hearing back in October, I was truly inspired by the clear case of morality that brought together both sides of the aisle on this.
He was an amazing writer.
Discussion. We've been called noisy complainers and we've been called manipulating troublemakers, but after 10 years, I finally have my chance to speak. My name's John Martin Crawford, and I was locked up in the NATSAP-affiliated program, the Family Foundation School in Hancock, New York, from 95 to 97. My life at home was anything but stable, causing me to seek my own release from it all. I created a persona for myself, the troublemaker at school, always looking for attention I didn't get at home. I was involved in drugs by the age of 13. I was lost, constantly in fights, legal run-ins, and more. My parents were at wit's end. My only release was my music, my writing, and my skateboarding. After being expelled from public school and one private school for marijuana use and writing an underground newspaper, my parents were told to send me to the family shortly thereafter, thinking it would give me what I needed.
I think that it's important to understand that, especially if you're a parent, and even though it may seem like normal teenage stuff, right? I can understand the parent's side of feeling like something has to be done, and I could understand how a parent could feel being in that position, and thinking that this is the answer. You understand?
Once I arrived at the family, I knew I was there until I was 18. I went through what seems like the ritualistic stripping of identity almost all of us survivors faced. I was stripped, my clothes were taken and thrown away, my music, my art, my skateboard, all destroyed. What I didn't have with me, my parents were told to destroy as well. I was left with only a letter from my mother for the next 3 months. I've been to some inpatient settings before, but this one was different. Other places allowed phone calls, mail, peer communication. Here I wasn't even allowed to call home the first few months. Even after that, I only got one phone call home a week, nothing more, no access to CPS. Here I was only allowed to talk to staff and kids that had been there more than 6 months.
That was a thing when you came in as a new student. They didn't want you talking to kids that were also new because you would be considered negative, your conversations. So a lot of times they would put students on what was called blackout, 6 months and under. You can't talk to people, any type of blackout. You could be on blackout with boys, blackout with staff, blackout with, girls. You could be on personal blackout with your parents. There was all different kinds of blackout that was used. But this was a frequent one.
I was told I was denying the extent of my drug use, and I was confused as to just how I would get better enough to see my family. I sat, watched, and learned to play the game of lies necessary to get privileges.
A lot of kids did this. I've had students that had to take part in restraining me or reprimanding me come and apologize, and I don't hold them. I understand that students have different levels of what they can deal with as far as like what their breaking point would be, and I don't fault other students for doing what they felt like they had to do to survive, because it was survival.
And eventually get out. I was lucky and figured these rules out quickly enough not to endure what I saw many kids endure, but I witnessed it all, including staff punching students in the face while restraining, not once, but several times. Typical restraint procedures were wrapping kids up in duct tape and blankets. Kids were not let out of this wrap, even to use the bathroom, for feminine hygiene, or just to move around a little bit and extend their limbs. Restraints were not only done by faculty, but students as well. Usually this was even more brutal and was often done in front of all other students to show what will happen if you act out.
Correct. Most times I was restrained at a table topic, meaning while students were sitting down and eating, I was restrained and wrapped in a blanket with duct tape.
Kids were forced to eat food they were allergic to and keep eating even if vomiting as a result. We were forced to attend daily religious services and AA meetings and share personal stories with the outside world. Kids as young as 12 being taken out of school to carry out pointless manual labor, such as shovel manure, carry wheelbarrows of rocks, sweeping the roof, shoveling, numerous things for days on end.
There was a younger kid when I was there. There weren't very many middle school kids when I attended the family school. One of those kids, his name was Cassidy, and he was so young. And that poor kid, he is no longer with us. That poor kid, man, he was. I saw that kid put on such hard work, demeaning sanctions, and he was just a kid. He must have been 12.
When kids tried to run away, it was again not only staff but students told to chase, tackle, restrain, and bring them back.
Yep.
Many things were heard from staff, berating kids with high levels of verbal abuse, often of a highly derogatory and sexual nature, at times regarding sexual orientation.
Correct.
An admitted sex addict was one of the high-up faculty and counselors, as well as a dorm monitor living above the boys' dorm.
That he's talking about Paul Gear. When I got there, Paul lived above the female dorm. I would imagine there were complaints that he was assaulting females, so they put the boys in there, and he assaulted them too.
The rules I learned to avoid many of these problems were as follows. I made up a horrible past to cure myself of. Our moral inventory was nearly always fabricated to make our problems seem worse and the program seem like salvation. Tell on yourself and your peers for things that you may have never done to give the illusion that you're getting better and working the program. If you have certain gifts, you can find a way to skate by. For me, I was their golden boy with my pen, and at my graduation speech, as well as for others, our speeches were used as propaganda as part of the family day for all the parents to hear their message of goodwill. Under no circumstances were we to tell our parents or prospective parents the truth about what we saw. I was fortunate enough to go home after a while, but I quickly learned that if I told my parents the truth about what I saw, I would only be explained as a manipulation and lose more privileges. While I had been fortunate enough to miss out on these horrors personally, I gave many tours to prospective parents, always omitting the details of restraints, punishments, and any lack of communication against the abuses that took place. As a dorm leader, I was told to wake up one of the kids in my dorm with the lamp that only had a floodlight as a bulb, burning his retinas. I participated in the restraining and took part in the barrage of verbal attacks just as did many of my peers. I am not proud of this, but we had no choice. If we did not conform, we were being negative and subjected to the same treatment and lack of privileges as everyone else. Once I left, I saw that I was now in the real world with real problems again, and the school had never helped me with those problems. After nightmares of the family led to a relapse, I was soon out of Vassar College and into the military. The training in the military, although viewed by some to be harsh, was a cakewalk compared to the hell endured at the family school. My trust issues were never resolved after leaving the family, and the nightmares remained. Ultimately, these psychological issues and flashbacks led to the need for my discharge from the Army, something I regret to this day. For years, I thought all this was my fault. While the nightmares and anxiety never wore off, getting high at least made it go away again. I will not blame others for my choices or my mistakes. I take responsibility for those. What I blame the family for is stripping me of my childhood.
Amen.
I still have nightmares of being locked up and told I'm ruining my life. I still read their monthly paper of lies and get nauseous remembering what we witnessed. The only thing I can say to temper my disdain for these types of schools, or at least for the family, is this. While the programs, as they are, have little positive effect long term, I do believe that kids in my position need some sort of help. I believe there can be a safe solution, as some staff are genuinely decent and caring people. We need oversight and regulation of these facilities with swift and severe penalties for those who stray from the standards. What must be remembered through all of this is that these success stories that these places put out tend to fall in the 1 to 2 year range after leaving such program and are usually the opinions of parents. A true statistic, of the 25 kids from my graduation class and the one prior to mine, maybe 4 remain sober. While many can now say they live successful lives, it came anywhere between 5 and 10 years after leaving the program and figuring out life on their own with psychiatric help.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, this cannot be said for all. The programs are quick to take credit for a successful story and are just as fast to claim that anyone that doesn't make it just didn't work the program. The truth, the nightmares and psychological scars of being dragged from your home to a place in the middle of nowhere, restrained in blankets and duct tape, assaulted verbally and physically, those scars and that trauma never go away. For my friends who have since died from suicide because of the nightmares, or those who still suffer the nightmares, our time and our voice will not be in vain.
I will never, John Martin Crawford it's a really soft spot for me because he should be here. He should be here to see how far we've come, and we would not have gotten there if he was not involved in the beginning. And we've always been, I am always so grateful for his lead, if you will. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to learn. I'll get better, I promise. Just real quick, I want to leave y'all with some statistics about the troubled teen industry. 120,000 to 200 kids are sent to programs like this in the United States today. Those numbers are not or cannot be accurate because it is not anything that is seen or overseen with any oversight. Those programs, one program received, I'm sorry, cut that. Those programs received $23 billion in public funds. One program reported a $200 million annual income, with 90% of that coming from Medicaid or Medicare. In 2015, Utah, the state of Utah, which is huge with the troubled teen industry, one program, I'm sorry, cut that. In 2015, Utah, which is like a hot spot for the troubled teen industry, generated $714 million in revenue. $714 million, one state, to abuse children. You know, in all of the time that I've been dealing with stuff like this, I've never, not once, heard of a good program. Not one. They all have abuse involved in some way, shape, or form, whether it's coercion or verbal or psychological. There is abuse in all forms. And our government pays them to abuse children. Okay? That's insane to even think about. Thank you for watching. I'll get better at it, I promise. This is the first one, so I'm sure it's gonna be super choppy. So just bear with me, and I will see y'all soon.